And welcome back to another edition of LIITR Radio. I'm your host, Dave Duenas, with my co-host, Amilcar. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
I'm good. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day, David.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah, definitely.
big up to all of the people like you and me that have actual, real American blood. You know.
Yep. Of
Yeah, but
course.
all good. I mean, I'm in the studio over here, the makeshift Leave It in the Ring East studio. I'm working on it. Remember, whatever happened to Golden Boy East and Death Row Records East? There was a lot of East
stuff that
businesses
didn't.
before.
Yeah. It's almost
Well,
as bad
now it's Leave It in the Ring East.
The only difference is that the Leaving the Ring East is actually real. It actually does show up. That's the huge difference there and stuff, man. Hey, well, I'm glad that we're back.
Yeah,
because
me too.
I got a lot of emails, and I apologize to a lot of folks that were like hoping to hear our review of the Charlo's pay-per-view, about Canelo and DAZN, about the news about Wilder and Fury 3 being canceled. I'm going to explain, like I explained to a couple folks on email when I respond back. And if I don't respond back to you right away, don't take it personal, because I know some guys are taking it kind of personal, and then they kind of send me back another email that they're kind of upset, you know what I mean? Because here's one thing, okay? I want to make this clear. We value everybody that tunes in and listens, whether you're a fan of the show or not. Me and Amilcar love to respond back to our listeners. Okay, it's not like we don't want to. The difference is that we're just really busy. I'm self-employed, and then Amilcar is a teacher, and also he's doing some upgrades on his home. So we had some life issues kind of just get in the way, and that's why we didn't come on live and stuff. It's not like we don't want to come on. Trust me, we want to come on. I mean, we literally try to make it happen, right, Amilcar? Like, we were really trying to make it happen. It just we just couldn't do it. And we were like trying to get on like on a Wednesday or even like a Thursday, but every time we tried to have like in sync our time together, it just never worked out, So we just figured, you know what? Let's just erase the board and let's just shoot for this day and get back on into the regular hour on Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific and 8 p.m. Eastern time here on Leave the Ring on our YouTube channel. Now, some of you guys are wondering why we're not on Blog Talk. It's because I haven't figured this all out yet. I'm just happy that we're doing this live right now. We're not having any complications. Hopefully, we're not having any complications here on the YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit that little like button and that notification bell so you know when we're on live. Okay, but again, I appreciate everybody that emails us and asks us questions, and I try to answer back as everybody's back as soon as I can. Or like I said, I'll respond back saying, hey, we'll talk about that on the show. Okay, so again, I appreciate everybody that tunes in, writes to us, and wants to talk boxing with us, because trust me, if I could, I'd talk boxing with everybody 24/7. But I got to make a living. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, boxing talk doesn't put food on the table. Not for me.
Yeah, and I had to paint my whole apartment and move a whole lot of shit. And actually, I'm pretty much in the closet right now. But we both really wanted to do this show.
Right.
Next week I'll have my home set up really nice. I actually just put down some stuff on my floors I told David about, so the windows are wide open. Hopefully, I don't pass out during the show. But yeah, I'm excited. I mean, we've had a couple good weeks of boxing, and obviously, we've got a really big card coming up ahead of us on ESPN this Saturday night.
Yeah, we really do. I mean, there's a big fight that's happening Saturday that we all been anticipating. Obviously, we're going to go down the line. I guess, I don't know, should we preview the Lomachenko and Lopez fight here first on Leaving the Ring? Or should we play catch-up with other stuff that's happened? Because I think a lot of folks probably want to hear our thoughts about Lomachenko and Lopez, since that is the big event and everything that everybody's talking about right now among the boxing community. That is the big thing that's happening this Saturday for October.
Yeah, I mean, we might as well start with the big one on Saturday.
So in Las Vegas, as we all know, this is a unification fight. The WBC did say that it's winner takes all. Devin Haney is also a champion with the WBC, but it's like a regular champion. So again, you know, the bounce, the alphabet soup again is making things very confusing. But the truth of the matter is that there is no argument at all that Lomachenko is the guy to beat in order to be recognized as one of the best fighters in the world. So that's what Lopez is trying to do. Teofimo Lopez is trying to do is he's trying to solidify himself in history. Forget about the bouts, forget about everything else. He's trying to solidify himself in history as a guy that dared to be great. And that in boxing is in itself is very, very important. And that's what Lopez is trying to do. So if you're looking at the belts and you're looking at, well, here's Haley and here's this guy and there's that guy, then yes, you're gonna get confused. But if you want to shave that all the way and look at who's at the best in that division, there's no argument. Lomachenko is the man to beat because he's the top dog. Am I wrong about that? Amilcar, what do you think?
No, I think Lomachenko's proven himself to be the top fighter at 135 pounds. Obviously, it's a talented division. You know, you mentioned Devin Haney. You know, there's Tank Davis, who's kind of alternating between 135 and 130. And obviously, you've got Teofimo. Luke Campbell is still out there. I think that is the win that really solidified Lomachenko as the number one, because I keep saying this, like, Luke Campbell is one of the most, you know, unlucky guys in boxing in terms of never having won a title. So I think that solidified him as number one. Teofimo's essentially number two at the moment after that, you know, the vicious knockout of Romy. So yeah, this is one of the rare things that we don't always get to see in boxing, which is the number one guy fighting the number two guy.
Right.
And for that reason, I think it's a very exciting fight.
You know, I'm going to point out some things, and I'm still measuring the fighters. I'm probably going to do that tomorrow, Wednesday. I'm not really sure yet. I got to look at the schedule, where I'm going to break down their percentage of KO and, you know, give you a little bit of that. But today, I'm going to give you my prediction of what I think is going to happen. Here, I'm going to say this. Anytime you have a fight where you have the boxing community at a split, down the middle divided about who's going to win, and everybody's giving up a really good argument of why they're picking so-and-so, that tells you everything that you need to know about this fight. That means that this fight is very intriguing and very well matched. That these two guys are willing to take part in something that a lot of fighters nowadays are not really doing. They're avoiding this. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you always hear the talks about this guy needs to cross the street. Well, yeah, both of these guys are in the same promotional company, but both guys could have opted not fighting each other and waited much longer down the line. Especially Teofimo Lopez. He could have waited. He's a bit younger, but he's taking the Fernando Vargas route, which is, hey, I'm ready now and I want it today. And that's exactly what he's doing. People are thinking about Teofimo Lopez's size may be a huge factor. People are thinking that Lomachenko's experience is going to be a much major factor. People are pointing out that Lomachenko's footwork and his boxing skills is going to be the factor of the fight. Then there's folks that are pointing that Teofimo Lopez's power is going to be the big factor of the fight. Here's the factor, is that everybody's got good points, and there's enough there to say this guy can win and that guy to win. But at the end of the day, to me, in my opinion, I think there's a bit of a 60-40 into this fight here, Amilcar. And what I mean is 60 for Lomachenko and 40 for Teofimo Lopez. And I'll tell you why. You know, when we look at their record, I mean, they're similar, 15-15, okay? Lomachenko has 13 KOs and Lopez has got 14. But if you look at the list of guys that Teofimo Lopez has beaten, the list compared to what Lomachenko has done, it's not there. Okay, so you can now factor that the experience goes to Lomachenko. Teofimo Lopez still got questions. Can he adjust? The best performance, which was one of his weakest performance, if you ask any other expert, is that Lopez against the Japanese fighter, which I can't remember his name, I know, or can't pronounce it correctly, is by far his best because it was his well adjustment in that fight, but it was also one of his weakest performance, right?
Yeah, you're talking about
Nakatani, there you go. You know, now it did answer some questions for us, meaning that, you know, Lopez, finally we found an opponent that could take his power, so it forced Lopez to do something else, which is what? Box. Okay, that was something that a lot of us didn't know whether he could do or not, and he did that. But still, in the likes of facing a Lomachenko, who we've seen, who's been able to adjust to every opponent in front of him and make these adjustments towards the end of the mid rounds and championship rounds, it says a lot about Lomachenko. So when I say 60-40, the reason I'm giving 40 chance to Lopez is that Lopez to me has 4 rounds to be explosive, because after those 4 rounds, Lomachenko will slowly dissect him and figure him out and start taking away those other rounds and start stacking those rounds and putting them in the bank. If you watch Lomachenko throughout his career right now as a pro, out of those 15 fights, you'll see that, yeah, he's had trouble with guys in the early rounds, but it's slowly he starts taking over. And that's something that that's something that Lopez does not want to allow Lomachenko to do. And that's why I say he's got to be explosive. From the first bell, boom, he's got to be right on top of the older fighter, Lomachenko. He can't allow him to breathe, because if he does take his foot off the gas, it's going to be Lomachenko very slowly start creeping up. Now, remember this. People are going to point out Orlando Salido or what he did to Lomachenko. Well, there's 2 things. Lopez is going to have to fight like Orlando. But does Lopez have enough tricks in the bags the way Salido did? Salido's a veteran fighter. But here's another thing. Remember this. Siri started losing the fight towards the end. Towards the last 3 or 4 rounds of that fight, Lomachenko started taking over. Let's not forget, Lomachenko rocked Siri in that 12th round. So again, it shows out of those 15 fights, if you allow him to get past those 6 rounds, or 7 rounds, Lomachenko slowly turns it around into his favor. So again, I go with a 60-40. It's a great fight. What's my pick? I'm going to go with Lomachenko right now. I just think that if he's not blown out in those 4 or 5 rounds of the kid being explosive, because we know he is, he's very explosive. If he can't do it and he decides to try to box the boxer, it's slowly going to start weighing into the favor of Lomachenko.
I think that's a very good analysis, Dave. My main thing is Lomachenko is still in the tail end of his physical prime. And I think his physical prime, the peak of it was probably about 2-3 years ago, but he's still at the tail end of it. And he's got that great combination of obviously the amateur experience, which he's now turned into the pro experience.
Right.
He's passed every test that's been put in front of him, except for the Salido fight, which, I mean, come on, you fought Orlando Salido in your first pro fight. I mean, that in itself, not first pro fight, but was it his second? It was very early on. I mean, that said a lot, and he learned from that experience, and he's built upon that. Now, I do think that Teofimo Lopez is a very talented guy. I don't necessarily see this as kind of the Fernando Vargas, Trinidad fight, only in the sense that I don't see him getting beat up as bad, but I see him getting dominated if it goes, just like you said, David, beyond, I would say, the first 3-4 rounds. What I saw in that Nakatami fight was someone who didn't necessarily have a second or third game plan to resort to. Right. You're going to need a lot more than 2-3 game plans to beat Lomachenko. I get it. Nakatami was taller than him, kind of rangy, kind of an awkward style. Well, if that troubled him, if that was awkward, he's going to see a lot of awkward stuff from Vasil Lomachenko this weekend.
Right.
And I don't think that Vasil is going to be trading with them early on to give him that opportunity to necessarily be explosive. And if he does, he's going to be doing it tactically to make him run into something and make him pay. So, yeah, the last thing I'm going to say is, with all those amateur fights and now the pro experience that he has, he's seen all kinds of styles.
Yes.
He's engaged with young, hungry, explosive fighters, in 4-round fights, obviously, first as an amateur and then with the World Series of Boxing and then later on in his pro career. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a Lomachenko win. Whether or not it goes to 12 rounds or not is really going to be dependent on Teofimo's chin, which we haven't really seen being tested so far as yet in his career.
I don't think it is going to be tested still. I think that,
Yeah.
I think the Matador and Bull is the perfect way of describing what this fight's going to be. And I think that Vasily Lomachenko understands he's the Matador in this fight, okay? Teofimo Lopez is the Bull. Now, can the Bull outsmart the Matador? Absolutely. It's happened before, but normally the Bull has kind of a window. And that window, when it's opened, he's got to jump right through it. Teofimo has the youth to do it, and he's got the desire. That's what makes him very dangerous and makes this fight very interesting, because a lot of stuff, like I like to piggyback on what you're saying about the age of Vasily Lomachenko. He's seen everything, absolutely. But can you do it twice? Can you do it 3 times all the time? Because the way you reacted to Siri is not necessarily could you react the same way to a Lopez, who, to point out, is a much larger man than Orlando Salido, much bigger. Okay, and he's obviously going to come in much heavier. He could possibly come in as a junior middleweight on Saturday night. So there's a lot of factors here. I think the thing with Lomachenko is that he's a very small guy, okay? He's jumped up, and his punch resistance hasn't been the same since fighting in the lower weights. So there's things there that Lopez and his team and his father can look at and take advantage. And I'm pretty sure that's what they're looking at. I'm pretty sure they're looking at that window, which is a very short window they have to jump through. And that's why I'm saying it's got to be early, because Lomachenko is a very slow starter. He likes to go up the hill. Before he starts picking up the speed, he likes to kind of travel and look at the scenery and kind of check out the environment to see whether or not he could leap or he could jump, he can do whatever he can. And going back to like Linares or even Campbell, who kind of gave trouble to Lomachenko, the only thing that I could point about those two fighters in terms with Lopez is that both of those fighters, Campbell and Linares, is that they were on their bicycle a lot. They gave Lomachenko, angles. They made sure that Lomachenko was trying to find them. Where Lopez, is he going to do that, Amilcar? Are we going to see him use his footwork? Are we going to see him try to find angles to throw punches? I'm not sure, because if my memory serves me right, the guys that have mostly that Lomachenko has made retire are guys that stand right in front of him.
Yeah, or guys that try to outbox him. It didn't really go too well for the Axeman and others that he's fought. It didn't go too well for Rigo, although I tell anyone who listens that Rigo's a 118 pounder, so I barely count that victory. But yeah, I mean, most of the guys that he's retired are guys that do just what you said, David.
The thing about like the Axeman is, if we look at that fight, the one thing I could point out is that Lopez is a much bigger guy, not bigger than the Axeman. I'm not saying he's bigger than the Axeman. But what I'm trying to point out is that Lopez is a far more athletic guy than the Axeman was.
I was really disappointed in the Axeman, to be honest.
I was too.
Not to go back to that because it was a while ago, but I was really looking forward to that fight, and it ended up being such a mismatch.
Oh, it was
I don't know how foretelling that is. Yeah, in terms of what's going to happen Saturday. Look, I'm open to being proven wrong here, and I'm sure you are too, David. I just haven't seen enough from Teofimo up to this point to show me that he's going to be able to defeat a 2-time Olympian with the pedigree of Lomachenko. I haven't seen it yet, and maybe he'll show it to us Saturday. But I didn't see it against Mason Menard. I didn't see it against Magdaleno. I didn't see it against Nakatami. I didn't even see it against Richard Comey, because the way that Richard Comey fought is not the way that Lomachenko's going to fight. He's going to be much more defensively minded. Absolutely. He's going to be, throwing his shots but setting them up. He's going to be using angles. He's going to be using footwork, and he's not going to just be standing there to get teed off on the way Richard Comey was.
Really quick, I apologize if you guys can't comment. I don't know why it put it on kids, so you can't comment on the video or communicate with us. I apologize about that. I guess I didn't do it correctly when I filled out everything. But let me just go back to what Lomachenko and Lopez really quick. God, I had something that I wanted to talk to you about, but I just right now went blank because I wanted to point out what was going on with the comments and stuff like that. But it'll come back to me about what I wanted to point out with Lopez. Let me get think here for a moment, man. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
You know, going back with Lopez, you know, this is what I was going to say. The one thing that Lopez has got to do, what Lomachenko has been able to make numerous fighters that he's faced so far, is be hesitant. And Lopez can't do that. If you watch like Linares, and I watched that fight again, the mild success that he had with Lomachenko was that when Linares decided to follow through with his punches, not just throwing a jab, but when he threw in combinations, he was really successful. And that was really how he was kind of breaking down Lomachenko in those mid rounds, okay? And even caught Lomachenko where he hurt him really bad and dropped him. With Lopez is that he's got to go in there with his full confidence, okay? He can't hesitate and he can't second guess himself. He's a power puncher. He's athletic. He's young. He's got to believe in all of that, okay? All of that with the completeness of remembering, though, that he has a guy that's very elusive, okay? So he's got to know, he's got to predict where Lomachenko's head's going to go before he throws it. So that means when he throws a jab, he's already got to understand that throwing a jab, he's going to either have to throw a right hook or over the top right hand, something of that effect, just in case the head of Lomachenko decides to veer to the left or veer to the right. Because if one thing that Lomachenko does very phenomenal, very well, is he does a lot of flinching and he does a lot of things. Like he likes to pity pat, and he pity pats to see how your body reacts. You know, he sees if you want to pair, he sees if you pull back, he sees if you duck down, whatever he does. And it's almost like it's a memory log. He's just memorizing everything that you're doing, so then later on, he's going to find those little kinks and he's going to start landing some harder shots. And that's how he really does break down his opponents. And that's where Lopez has got to understand that those first 3-4 rounds, Loma's not going to let something off hard. He's not going to shoot a missile. Okay? What he's trying to do is distract you. He's starting a diversion so he can land something big in those mid rounds. So Lopez has just got to follow through with those big shots and make Lomachenko hesitate. Make Lomachenko be out of pocket. The way Siri did it to Lomachenko in those first 6 rounds of their fight, he made Lomachenko think before throwing. Well, it was the opposite. Lomachenko was used to making those guys overthink with their position, and they made mistakes. That's what Lopez has got to do, okay? And the youth can do that. Youth can make an older guy overthink their position, overthink what they're going to throw, and make them sit there and think about what combination they're going to let go. And without them knowing, boom, they're hit. That's what Lopez has got to do. He's got to jump on them. To me, again, it's a 60-40 fight. I won't be surprised if the kid goes out there and knocks out Lomachenko, but like I said, it's a very small window in my opinion. I really see the fight going like 8-4. 8 rounds to Lomachenko, 4 rounds to Lopez. That's my opinion, you know?
Yeah, so then that's like a 75-25 kind of matchup, which I'm kind of there with you as well. And I agree with you about the way Loma uses kind of those pity pats shots. He almost uses them as feints. Yes. And I bring up Rigo again, but it's something he used to do as well. He'd almost like show you the shot and then throw it, just to kind of get a read about your reactions and what you're doing.
It also makes you comfortable. You know that? I mean, you know, I remember when I used to train, the guy used to train me, his name was Lupe. I remember like he used to say, hey, don't extend your jab all the way out. Do a half jab. Do a half jab. Make them feel that it's only going to touch their glove. And then when they become comfortable and they kind of let the tense of their body relax, bam, shoot it in. And that's how you could break their nose or blind them, and then you could throw in your right hand. So a lot of stuff that Lomachenko does, the old school fighters did it, okay? They used to plant a seed. And then once they planted it, then they were able to grow off of that. And that's what Lomachenko does. And that's what Lopez and Team Lopez and his father, they got to understand that what Lomachenko is going to do is he's going to plant a lot of different seeds before he grows on that plant and stuff. So,
I'm hoping for, sorry, go ahead, Dave.
Go for it. What are you going to say?
No, what I'm hoping for is that, and I'm going to kind of say the kind of thing I used to hear George Foreman say a lot when I was watching fights as a kid on HBO, which is that he's got to make it rough in there. Siri had a lot of success because he made it rough. Siri made him think about things because he was honestly rule breaking and hitting him low and hitting him, making it very uncomfortable for him. Teofimo's, from what we can tell so far, just sizing them up, is a bigger, stronger guy. He's a younger guy. Again, channeling George Foreman, hit him on the shoulder, work the body, just make it very uncomfortable for him. And when he's on the inside, if he has to, rather than try to outbox him and trade combinations with him, clinch him, right?
Yeah.
Clinch him, make it rough, make and kind of take away the pace of the fight from Lomachenko. Because one thing Lomachenko does, like all great fighters, is they make you fight at their own pace.
At their own pace, at their own comfort zone. Lopez, and I think his dad and Teofimo know they can't show any respect. From the first round, when that bell hits, they cannot show any kind of respect. This is a war. Hagler used to go with the war hat and touch it. War. That war mentality has got to show up. Right when that bell rings, that first minute, it's got to tell Lomachenko whether Loma feels old or if there's still dog left in Lomachenko. That's what Lopez has got to pull out.
I don't think he should go in there trying to outbox Lomachenko. I think if he does that, it's going to be a problem. I think he's got to make it a very rough dog fight. And like I said, clinch him. Hold him and walk him down. Hit him on the shoulders. Hit him on the hips. Hit him anywhere you have to. Obviously, go to the body, work the body. But I would not be trying to trade combinations with him at Lomachenko's kind of mid-range. I do everything I kind of get inside and make it as rough a fight as possible. And if you have success doing that, then later on, then you can kind of open up a little bit the way we saw him do against other fighters. I don't think he can do what he's done to the other fighters he's beaten to Lomachenko, especially early on. He's going to have to put in the work.
I just can't see Lopez, and I'm sorry, I just can't see Lopez doing what Siri was able to do to Lomachenko. And I'll tell you why. As much as some folks could say that Siri kind of fight really sloppy and it was an ugly type of style that he used against Lomachenko, at the end of the day, that's a tough style. And I've never seen Lopez kind of do that. When he fought Richard Comey, he needed that distance. He needed that range to land that right hand. So, and here's the thing. That style where you're grabbing a guy, kind of grappling and just throwing very short punches, it's very tiring. If you don't have that stamina, and you haven't been doing that for a while, it's very difficult to try to continuously do it for 12 rounds. And so difficult that Orlando gassed out on between the 8th and 9th round. He couldn't do it anymore, and that's why Lomachenko was able to take over. And that's my concern there, is that whatever minor success Lopez has, he's got to bite it. He's got to be a pet bull. He can't let go, because the longer the duration of the fight goes, the more adjustments Lomachenko's going to take. And you're right. He's a very smart, intelligent guy. It's like fighting a Floyd Mayweather. As much criticism we can give Floyd, the one thing we knew about Floyd is he had 3 game plans every time he stepped into that ring.
Yeah. And look, Lomachenko's known, obviously, for having a background in dance, and it makes sense that he fights to a rhythm, and he does that successfully. I think the main thing Siri did by, holding with one hand, hitting with the other, hitting low, hitting on the hips, doing literally everything he needed to do, like you said, for those 8 rounds, was he didn't allow Lomachenko to fight within his rhythm. It was very difficult to get his rhythm going and to kind of get started to the beat of his drum. And you're right. I don't know if Teofimo Lopez is going to be able to do that. He relies on his boxing to beat people. Boxing and his athleticism, obviously, in terms of being kind of quicker and faster than his opponents. But this is why it's an interesting fight. And last thing I'm going to say about this fight, Dave, and we spoke about this before the show, but as excited about watching this fight as I am, I just don't buy the hype of it in terms of it being a pay-per-view level fight. I'm very excited about the fight. I grew up watching Showtime Championship Boxing and, HBO Championship Boxing.
Right.
Being very excited for those fights. I see it along that caliber of fight. I don't think that either of these two guys are pay-per-view stars. And I think it's quite disingenuous when ESPN keeps mentioning that, oh, this fight isn't on pay-per-view. You're so lucky to be watching it on ESPN. It's like, no, this fight should have never been on pay-per-view. And
the sad part about the Milcar is you got to be realistic.
Yeah.
This fight would have ended up on pay-per-view because, if anything, the promoters have always tried before the app, any app that came into fruition, the promoters try to put everything on pay-per-view. Remember, anything that even sounded remotely big, they automatically try to put it on pay-per-view. Top Rank and Bob Arum. Let's not forget, they made Mexico versus the Philippines they put that on pay-per-view. The Latin Furies fights, he put that on pay-per-view. So they are right. He is right. Well, this is not on pay-per-view.
But David, with all due respect, and I'm one of the few people that used to watch those cards, those were like $19.99 pay-per-views. Right. Those weren't the $79 plus another $10 if you want to watch it in HD.
Very true.
Which is almost everybody watches. Like, who doesn't have an HD TV in 2020? They're trying to make out it's like that kind of a pay-per-view. Like, I don't know, Tyson Holyfield or Holyfield Lewis or
it's a great marketing strategy, though.
De La Hoya Trinidad. I'm sorry. I'm excited for this fight, but it's not fucking De La Hoya Trinidad. It's just not.
It isn't in the terms because of the way things are marketed, but I do believe that this is a great marketing way to intrigue other subscribers to the ESPN Plus. Okay, and what I mean is this: here's the thing. They not ESPN and Top Rank decided not to do the aggressive route, which the Zone did, which is pay-per-view's dead. Pay-per-view's dead. Instead, what ESPN Plus and Top Rank did was say, hey, subscribers, instead of we're not going to do what PBC promised they weren't going to do to you, okay? We're going to put this for free, which in reality, it really isn't for free because we're paying for it for an app, but it's just not $80, okay? Also, it also gives other folks, because I'm a blue collar guy, so I work with a large amount of different people, and I've heard some folks go, "Hey man, this fight that was supposed to be on pay-per-view is going to be for free. Is it going to be any good?" I'm like, "Yeah, it is." So see what I'm saying? It already embedded in their head that they're getting something for free, and I think it's brilliant. It's brilliant. I'm not saying I don't disagree with you. If this was supposed to, you know what I mean? You're right. This is not something that would have ended up on pay-per-view, because they're not really household names yet. Neither one of these guys.
No. Neither. To me, it's on the level. And again, I was super excited for this fight when it happened.
Same here. Yeah.
But like Kostya Zab Judah, which was on Showtime Championship Boxing, or, Gotti Mayweather, something like those were not pay-per-view fights. They were big fights, but even Lennox Lewis versus Vitaly Klitschko, that wasn't a pay-per-view fight. That was on regular HBO. That was a great fight. I was very excited for it. So, I'm not going to go on and on about this because I don't want to obviously just rant about all of this, but ESPN's doing a good job. I think they've surpassed the Zone. I think right now it's between ESPN and PBC Boxing in terms of in terms of our leaders in television right now. ESPN also brings us those UK cards. Although I was surprised that the Liam Williams card wasn't on the Plus app.
No, it wasn't.
I wish it was. If we have time, I'd like to talk about that later. But they really need to give us all of those fights. Obviously, we're junkies. I need those fights.
You know, the thing is that if you really think about it, when you think of household, and this is why I understand what they're saying. This is not a, hey, guess what? When I put it in on pay-per-view, it's for free. Okay, you're getting a fight that you're not going to have to pay this X amount of dollars. Also, because we're in the COVID-19 pandemic, there's a lot of stuff going on. Hey, we're here for you. It's a great message to the subscribers. It's a great message to sport fans in general, sport fans, guys that love baseball, guys that love football and basketball, because it all kind of caters back to boxing. Any one of those fans, they may not be avid fans like us, but when they hear something pay-per-view, that's like the high bar of the sport. It is. Everybody knows that's the Super Bowl for boxing. So when they hear that, what, a pay-per-view, a fight, but it's not going to be on pay, that's great. But here's the truth of the matter. When we talked about them not being household names, can you give me one fighter right now that really is a household name that's not a heavyweight? Forget about Wilder and forget about Fury. That's not a household name out there that they could really promote. Crawford isn't a household name. Spence isn't a household name. Garcia's...
This is pretty much Canelo, and that's about it.
Canelo's about it. Yep.
But yeah, Canelo's about... to me, it's like if I go to Chipotle and I order my, my burrito or whatever, and, I get the black beans and I get the brown rice, and then I'm already paying for that, and then they're like, do you want pico de gallo? I'm like, yeah. Is that free or did I already pay for it? I already bought the app. It's not fucking free. I paid for the app. The fact that I'm getting this fight, don't tell me that it's free. It's not free. I'm taking it. I'm liking it. It's great. But it's not pay-per-view worthy. It's just not. I'm sorry. And it's also not free.
No, it isn't free. But like I said, I'm okay with them saying it's pay-per-view worthy because, like I said, go back. Okay, Gervonta Davis and Leo Santa Cruz, is that really pay-per-view? Like that, should that really be on pay-per-view?
Okay, that's a good point. You got me on that one. That shouldn't be a pay-per-view at all either, but they put that on and we're going to talk about the Charlo brothers card. That shouldn't have been a pay-per-view.
No. They should, but but the whole stack card was great. I loved it, except for when they had that podcast type of thing they were trying to do.
Let's get to that now.
Let's get to that now. So real quick, let's just make sure. Okay, so I got Lomachenko decision. Who do you got?
I've got Lomachenko by decision.
There you go. There we go.
Or late round TKO.
I'd be very surprised, man. And I think this kid Lopez is that fundamentally that strong. He honestly reminds me a lot of Fernando Vargas, and that's why I bring up Fernando Vargas a lot. I just don't think he's technically sound like Fernando Vargas, in terms of boxing skills. But in terms of aggressive, being ferocious, I see this kid just like that. I think he's going to be very stubborn for anybody to try to get out of there. There's just too much pride with him and his dad. I think that he looks at it, I'll let everybody down. I think it's going to be I think this is going to be a very test to Lopez and to Lomachenko. Too
much too early. And you know why I said that at the TKO? It's like you brought up with Vargas. What happened to Vargas when he faced Tito?
Yeah.
TKO, right?
TKO. He wouldn't stay down.
And he started out well. I remember El Feroz had me believing in him. I thought he was gonna take Tito out for a while, and then what happened? Then he didn't.
Right.
What did Tito do? He used that old school knowledge, use those, that experience, and he put it together, and he took him out.
Well,
much in the way B-Hop did to him later on.
Remember this, Tito Trinidad caught him early because the fact is that Fernando went out there believing that his youth and strength and that size was going to be a major factor. And it caught him by surprise. But Lomachenko doesn't have any of the attributes that Tito Trinidad has. So he can't do any of that. You know what I mean? Like he can't be that. Yeah. He doesn't have that power to make Lopez rethink.
That left hook. Ooh, that left hook to the body.
Lomachenko has to do exactly what Lomachenko has been doing his whole career, which is slowly take away your best punches. Slowly take that away. They call him the Matrix for a reason, not just because he's elusive. He just slowly starts taking you apart, you know, and sees like, oh, this guy likes to throw a straight right. Okay, well, let me nullify that. Let me take that away. Let's say if I take that, is he any good with his left? That's what Lomachenko does, you know, and that's what Lopez and Team Lopez has got to understand is that if he figures out how you throw your right hand, like he sees your tick, like the way Tyson Fury was able, and his team was able to, with Jonathan Banks, was able to figure, I mean, not with Sugar Hill, they were able to figure out Wilder, that he would drop that right nipple level before he threw his right hand.
Absolutely.
It's over. It's over for Lopez and them. But they have to know that, you know what?
He took 2 steps back every time he took 2 steps back every time Wilder dropped that right hand. 2 small little steps.
Yep.
Took himself out of range.
And that's
that's how these super high level guys see stuff.
Yes, and that's where Team Lopez, because again, I said this a couple months ago when this fight was announced. Remember this? I don't know if you remember when I said this is just not about these 2 fighters facing each other. This is actually about 2 fathers that trained their sons facing each other.
Yeah, that too.
You know,
so
we're
in
really
other words,
find out.
So you see Papa Lopez throwing in the towel or not?
I don't think so. I think Papa Lopez's pride is about as big as his son. He believes in his son.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't believe in his son? I mean, you know, when I trained my boys and my son Tristan, I believed in him. You know, the only difference is that I listened. You know, I mean, sometimes you kind of like try to live through your kids and stuff. That's a whole different story. But, you know, I think that in order to make a duel, and a very strong duel, is that you both have to believe that that whatever a father has to believe whatever he created is indestructible. And you can't believe that Lomachenko doesn't think the same way that Teofimo Lopez's dad doesn't think. Because if they did, they would have not made it to the elite. You know what I mean? You can't move up the ladder thinking like that. You can't think that your son can be broken. You know, you don't make it. You don't make it there with doubts. You never make it to the top with doubts at all. If you do, you don't belong in this game. You don't belong in boxing at all if you believe in doubts.
So speaking about doubts, you know, I doubted whether I could make it to the end of the Charlo brothers pay-per-view, being out here on the East Coast. And you know what? I couldn't make it, Dave. I fell asleep in the co-feature. And I know I complained to you about that. It was, what the hell, man? You know, I remember in the beginning, I was like, why have they split up the pay-per-view like this? And then you have these 2 guys in the middle just blabbing on and on about nonsense. And honestly, the fight that took place after that break caused me to just fall asleep. And then I missed the main event and I had to watch it the following day. What were your overall thoughts of the card?
The overall thoughts of the fights, I don't know what the hell this guy's talking about. The overall thoughts of the fights were this. I loved them. I thought that the start of it was, the momentum was great. Everything was going. You know what I mean? Every fight was just on top. You know, it had you wanting to see more, you know. And like I said on Twitter, I was like, every fight that was listed was a fight that you can't get up to grab a beer during the fight, only in between the rounds. And it lived up to that. So for them to roll over to a podcast type of style for the intermission was a terrible idea, because you lost the steam. You just lost that whole steam there, and you lost fans. I mean, it was like an hour of us waiting to kind of to you know, get that. Like, you never stop the momentum. Who would do that? That's the dumbest thing. You know what I mean? That momentum was going. You keep it rolling.
It was. I mean, I felt like the Roman Payano fight, you know, got us going. It was a good fight, you know. I actually was quite impressed, believe it or not, by Payano. You know, this is the same guy who had got just sparked out by the monster Inoue, you know, moving up in weight and kind of taking it to Daniel Roman. And for a lot of it, he looked like the stronger fighter, right?
Right.
Then we get to the second fight with Brandon Figueroa. When is Brandon Figueroa ever not exciting? You know,
like I said,
that was
guy
a great
catches,
fight.
Yeah, I mean, that guy's a great catcher with his face.
Right? Absolutely. And then obviously we had the Sergey Deverenchenko fight with Charlo, which I thought was one of the best middleweight fights I've seen in a while.
Yeah, it was a great fight.
I just thought it was great, and I thought that Jermell Charlo really showed us who he is and where he stands in the middleweight division. I'd like to hear about though from you, David, in terms of who you think where he should go from this fight with Deverenchenko.
I mean, in a perfect world, right? I'd love to see Charlo, go after like Canelo, Andrade, Saunders, something like that. But in reality, I don't think any of that's going to happen. I think if anything, you're going to see what we've seen a lot from a lot of PBC fighters. You know what I'm saying? And I know some folks are going to say, "Oh, you're being a PBC hater." I'm really not. I'm just looking at the track record of what they do. They go from one really good fighter, and then they fall back down to like another C+ fighter. You know what I mean? Like it never moves up, and it for whatever reason, the politics of boxing always kind of is a roadblock to what we're going to see next. So unless Charlos are going to be aggressive to the promoter to tell them this is what we're looking for and this is what we want next, I don't see anything happening. If anything, I see them kind of just going backwards, not going forward.
Yeah, I see that more for I have a problem for Jermall Charlo, the middleweight, than I do for Jermell Charlo. I think there's a few more options for Jermell Charlo at 154, and I'll get to him in a second. But yeah, I mean, the guys that came away with wins. Oh, and I forgot to mention the John Riel Casimero fight. Woo! What a performance. What did you think about that with the third round KO or TKO of Duke Micah? You saw that one, right?
I don't think I did. Which one was that one again? What fight?
The Filipino, the John Riel Casimero fight.
Oh my God! Oh yeah, dude. You know what? I want to see already. Casimero versus
Casimero
the monster
again.
Yeah, dude. Let's just see that happen finally.
Oh yeah, me too.
Let's just forget everything else. This is the next fight. This is the next fight that we need to see. Okay, this is the next fight that you got to label as it's not going to be on pay-per-view.
Yeah, right? No, seriously, that is to me must-see TV.
Yes,
and. I think honestly that if if ESPN wants to really make Inoue into a star, they need a fight like this. They need a guy who's going to go in fearless, because I have no doubt that John Riel Casimero is going to be a fearless opponent and is going to bring out the best in the monster. And I'm pretty sure the monster is going to bring out the best in him. That's going to be must-see TV. So, yeah. But back to Jermell Charlo, I thought it was a great performance. Unfortunately, though, the biggest names at 160 are one in litigation with DAZN,
right?
Canelo, or two tied with DAZN in terms of Bubu Andrade. So it's tough. There aren't really any other exciting fights I see for him.
Right. It doesn't look good, and that's what I mean, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, this was a great performance for both guys, okay? Do you see that they can improve? Yes. I mean, look, Deremenchenko is tough for anybody, okay? Gennady Golovkin's still kind of lingering out there. We really don't know where he's going. Fighter. He's another DAZN fighter. He's actually a fighter that's kind of been left out of the loop. Like, nobody's really been talking about him.
To be honest, he slipped my mind. That's why I didn't even mention him. He slipped my mind. So yeah, he's out there too.
I mean, if anything, the only option that the 160-pounder Charlo can really do is decide to jump up to 168. Go after Benavidez. Go after Caleb Plant. But I don't see that happening. Why should he do that? Because the lucrative fights are at 160. But the problem is that the mess that mess on the table right now hasn't been cleared. So he may be sitting out till mid next year. Yeah, he may be sitting out till mid next year, or else again we're gonna see him, backtracking in his career, facing guys that he should have been facing when he was moving up the ladder. Not at this moment, the pinnacle of his time right now, at the peak of his career. Guys that he shouldn't face is going to end up seeing him again in the ring because the options are not there. Not on his fault. Not on PBC's fault, because everybody else hasn't seemed to got the shit together.
Or maybe he goes the route of a Carlos Monzon or Bernard Hopkins and defends his title against, every contender that comes his way.
Every mandatory, right.
Every mandatory, and just kind of milk his WBC title for as long as he can. But, you look down the list in the WBC, and it's Jaime Munguia, for whatever reason, is ranked number 1. There was Sergey, who he just beat, and then there's Leon Williams, who we just saw fight Saturday, the British middleweight champion, who just blew out his opponent in one round.
I'd like to see Jaime Garcia. Jaime Munguia.
Jaime Munguia.
If he gets past, who he's fighting next, because I think the Charlo that is at 154, who, in my opinion, was losing a lot of those rounds against Jason Rosario, until he got that solar plex shot, that jab into the solar plex, and dropped, and we couldn't get back up. That's a fight that I've
never seen a shot like that, by the way.
Neither have I.
I've never seen a jab to the body knocking somebody out.
Rosario fell backwards, man. It was weird. He fell backwards. It almost looked like he was like he looked like a T-Rex that fell down and couldn't get back up because his arms were like. It was weird, man. It was weird, and I know a lot of folks were upset, and they were saying that he took a dive for this fight, but I was like, I watched it again. I mean, that was
you can't fake those convulsions.
Yeah,
you can't fake those convulsions.
No, dude, it was like right on point. I mean, if you're not getting that oxygen, you're gonna panic, and you saw there was panic in him by doing that with his.
Oh, that's what was happening.
Yep, he panicked.
Yeah, I remember the first time I ever got winded. I was in the school, and I was a little kid, and I was running down the hallway and didn't see the water fountain. And it was up until that point, it was the scariest thing. I was just panicking. Yeah. I literally thought I was going to lose my life because I wasn't catching any breath. You think you would have experienced that a few times now, having, being a boxer, because, I've been winded a few times taking body shots.
Right.
But I guess it was just the sweet spot, touched him, and he couldn't react. I was a little disappointed in Banana, to be honest. Jason Rosario didn't really seem to go in there with any kind of game plan whatsoever.
No, I mean, and remember what I said? I said, was he going to go off of his big win of J-Rock, the way J-Rock went off of his big win against Hurd, against Rosario? That's what we kind of saw. You know what I mean? But I did see that he was coming on. I thought he was landing some of the better combinations, But the thing with Charlo was that he was staying composed. He stayed in the fight, and he used his jab. Whenever possible, he used that jab. Whatever shit that the Charlo twins are getting, I gotta tell you what, their anger against what is going on to them in boxing is what keeps me wanting to see them again. Because they have a very the older, I don't know if he's the older one, but the one that's a middleweight, he's got a
the 160, yeah.
Jamal. Jamal's very controlled. Jamal's the one that's kind of like, to me, he's the brother, he's like, I want it now. Give it to me now. And if you don't give it to me, I'm going to take it. And I don't know why, but every time I've seen a fighter like that, it appeals to me. Like, I like that. I like that aggression. I like that attitude. So I'm still.
He seems a little unhinged at times, too.
He does.
I mean,
he really does.
I mean, it's like, he just doesn't. Every now and again, it seems like a screw just fell out, and like he's about to lose it.
Did you listen to that post interview when he was saying like the greats, they don't want to recognize us, they don't want to take us into the that contingency of being a great fighter. And I was listening to all that, and though I didn't agree with anything that he said, because here's the thing, is that when you're asking a great fighter to welcome you to the club, well, guys, your career's not over yet, and guys, you haven't fought any of the other greats. It may not be your fault you're not fighting any of the other greats because of the politics of it, but you're asking guys that actually had a fight for their position. You're telling them to open the door. You know what I mean? Like, you're literally telling them, I knocked on the door, so you should open it, even though you don't know me.
Yeah,
that's not the way it works.
He's got a lot to prove. I mean, look, beating up on Banana Rosario isn't going to exactly make you a first ballot Hall of Famer. You know, they've got a little bit of a while.
80s and the 90s, it definitely wouldn't. I don't know about now. Everything's really
I don't think it does. I don't think it does right now either. To be honest,
it shouldn't.
But I do think he's got more opponents though than Jamal, because he's got a guy that's an easy matchup for him right there in the PBC, and that's the WBA, and I'm using air quotes here, regular champion,
right?
Erislandy Lara, and I actually think that would be a pretty good fight. I actually think Erislandy's just past his physical prime, but he's still got a skill set, and he's still, recognizable enough and talented enough to be obviously a name that would be important on his ledger should he get that win. And then the other one is obviously Patrick Teixeira. And honestly, I don't know enough about his promotional situation to break down kind of how easy that fight would be able to be made. But that he's the last piece of the puzzle in terms of getting all 4 belts. He's got the WBO strap.
I mean, he's got options. He still has Hurd. He still has J-Rock. Jaime Murguia is not in any way, in court or whatever, or in bad terms with DAZN. So there's options there for him that he can go on forward for. I mean, look, I don't see that problem happening. I know some folks will be like, well, he's in the zone, he's this and that. Golden Boy and PPC have worked together. They have showed, even with Top Rank, is it all the time? No, but I think that if Charlo and them wanted to make that fight happen next, they could make it happen. It would be up to Golden Boy if they wanted to cash out Murguia right now, and I don't think they would. I think they still want to build on this kid. I still think they want to see whether or not he's like they can build a bigger following, make him more lucrative, rather than just kind of cashing him out. Because I mean, you got to admit, Murguia would not be the favor against this Charlo.
No, I don't think he'd be the favorite against either Charlo. And my understanding is that Munguia's moved up to 160. In fact, I believe he's the mandatory because he was previously the 154-pound WBO champion. I think he's the mandatory to Demetrius Andrade. I think he kind of leapfrogged Liam Williams because he was the 154-pound champion. And I do not see him beating Demetrius Andrade. I actually don't see him beating any of the current middleweight champions. I don't know, possibly Ryota Murata. I think his first name Ryota, the Japanese fighter out there in Tokyo, who's the WBA regular champion. We've seen him on ESPN a couple of times, winning and losing fights. That might be competitive, but I don't see why he'd take on Munguia. He's not a big enough name. If I'm Murata, I'm trying to get a fight with Canelo Alvarez, who is rumored to be going out to Tokyo once to fight him, and it never materialized, or Gennady Golovkin. So unless he can force a fight with Andrade, and I don't see him winning that fight, I don't know where Munguia goes at 154
I don't either.
Or 160.
I think, honestly, Golden Boy's doing a great job marketing him. He's a Mexican kid. He is exciting because he throws a lot of punches. But, it's a mirage. I mean, there's just a mirage that really surrounds this kid, And eventually, the smoke is going to clear. In my opinion.
I mean, I would have just held on to the I would have just held on to the WBO 154 title and made defenses as long as possible. But I think he moved up because he couldn't make that weight anymore. He's a big kid. So
massive kid.
Now
really big kid.
Yeah, now Patrick Teixeira's champion there, and he's trying to make his way at 160. But the landscape, like you said, David, there's a lot of fights at 154 and 160. The issue is more, crossing network and promotional lines. Well,
somebody's got to be a smooth talker, man, in this political game between what's going on at the 160. There's got to be some type of let up with either like the zone, Eddie Hearn. Somebody's got to reach out. If we're going to see any other matches, because right now, for some reason, at the 160 right now, it's like at a chokehold because of Canelo. Now, is Canelo the only guy in that division? I mean, there's a shitload of other guys in that division. And like I said, again, Gennady Golovkin's name seems to have dropped out. What happened to Tom Loeffler? Where is he at? Why is he not as vocal? You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know if he's still involved with Tom Loeffler.
He's still involved. He's still involved. But like I said, I mean, it just kind of seems like everything is at a halt because of what's going on with DAZN and Canelo and Golden Boy.
Yeah, well, the thing with Canelo sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just saying the thing with Canelo, too, is you don't even know what weight class he's fighting in. Is he at 160? Is he at 168? Is he at 175? I just have to kind of remove Canelo from the equation. And at this point, it's tough to say this because Canelo never lost the title in the ring, but Charlo's the WBC champion for whatever that's worth. And Canelo's got this, what do they call it? Franchise, title that allows him, I guess, fluctuate up and down between divisions.
That confuses everybody.
I mean, yeah, it confuses everybody. I mean, right now, 160 is pretty much Charlo, Andrade, and Golovkin. And that's kind of what we're looking at and dealing with. And, we'll see what happens. I, for one, am not even really that excited about seeing Triple G anymore. I don't know about you, but I guess a Charlo Triple G fight kind of makes sense.
I mean,
but who comes up with the money for that? Is DAZN going to come up with the money, or is it PBC?
That's the question. I think that's the question that everybody's asking. I mean, who's going to come up with what? I mean, and on what network? I mean, if I'm Al Heyman and PBC, I'm saying, well, you guys have a sole directed platform that you guys have promoted, and you have already. Why would we not want to put our fighter Charlo onto your guys' network?
Yeah.
Right. What I'm saying? So, because I mean, the zone's gonna want something out of it. I mean, and the thing about PBC is that they've been willing to do that. They've kind of shown that they're okay with their fighters going over here. I mean, Amir Khan was with PBC. And
yeah,
they went that route with Top Rank and stuff. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. The leeway, what PBC and them will do is definitely an option of them saying, okay, I could be the under guy. The only one that they wouldn't budge was with Floyd Mayweather on the cross promotion with Manny Pacquiao. That had to be down the middle, okay? Because that was one of the most lucrative fights out there that ended up being a dud. And I understand all that. I get that, But I think with everything else is that I think PBC, their sole reason of getting fighters and pushing them is to try to get them on everything, because they got to make them their money. They got to make sure they're getting paid. It's every promotional group kind of works their ways different. Like Top Rank, you can get as frustrated you can get with Top Rank. Hey, at least they have a home for their fighters. Are they putting their fighters against the best? No, because Top Rank has been known to kind of, use up their resources. But if it makes sense, they'll do it. They did it with Tyson Fury, with Deontay Wilder. You know, they've done it in the past. It's not like Top Rank won't do it, but there's got to be something there for them. You know.
I know the next fight you want to talk about was actually a Top Rank ESPN fight.
Oh yes.
Which I'm looking forward to talking about. But before we get to that, you know, we talked before about and I found this funny. And I've actually met Teddy Atlas, nice guy. I actually met him in a barbershop a few years ago, funny enough, in Staten Island. Yeah, I was visiting my cousin on Staten Island, and he was getting his hair cut, and Teddy Atlas was there just talking to the guys, because my cousin actually lives very near where he has his youth boxing center. Okay. So I guess that's why it popped in there. Anyways, I was watching. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was watching the fight, you know, his podcast with his sidekick. I forget the guy's name. I think his name's Ken. And he was really upset about Tim Bradley again, you know, stealing his material, as you said he does, on the ESPN card. And he was actually asking for an apology almost, it seems. So anyone who's listening to the show, check it out. You may not find it funny like I did, but I thought it was very funny that he was like almost pleading with and very upset with Tim Bradley for taking his lines. And this time it was the line about, you know, call your friends and your family because there's a fight taking place on ESPN Plus. apparently Teddy had said something like that during the Gabby Ward fight so that's a Teddy Atlas line. You know, I don't really memorize these lines, especially from Teddy. Most of the lines I've memorized are from I always reference him, but like George Foreman or Manny Stewart. So I thought it was pretty funny. Check it out. I mean, he wasn't thinking it was funny, but yeah. So, anyways, let's talk about that fight. That was some fight, man. At 140, you got guys. Again, it's such a deep division. Obviously, with Ramirez and Josh Taylor at the top, and everybody underneath, kind of fighting to become, a challenger to one of the champions. And that's kind of what this fight was all about. Two guys who had fallen in past fights to both Josh Taylor and Ramirez, fighting it out for a chance to face one of them again. And it turned out to be, I mean, you put it up as a question mark, essentially. I think it was fight of the year. I think it had round of the year. And I also think it had KO of the year. What about you?
I think so too. You know, which brings me to the whole fact with Cepeda.
And obviously, I'm
Ivan Barchet.
Are you there, David?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm obviously speaking about the Jose Cepeda Ivan Baranchyk fight.
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, you know, I guess, I don't know, first of all, let me make sure, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? I don't know what happened here. Hello? Testing 1. Can you hear me? I don't.